On the back seat, two naked bodies glowed a freakish, vibrant cherry red. It wasn't the flush of passion. It was the specific, horrifying hue of carbon monoxide poisoning. At the exact same moment, my phone vibrated against my palm. A voice roared through the speaker, dripping with venom. Mom, are you serious? Cut the crap, Colton screamed. You are literally wishing death on them just so you can get a little attention? You are actually disgusting. Click. The line went dead. I lowered the phone. My hands stopped trembling. I wiped the tears from my cheeks, my face settling into a mask of cold porcelain. I stared through the tinted window at my husband and his first love. They looked like two dead fish tangled in a net. Fine. If you two share such a deep, unbreakable bond, let me facilitate the reunion. One of you is going to hell. The other is going to prison. Chapter 1. I had only come downstairs to find the cat. Instead, I found the car. Deep in the silence of the underground garage, the luxury sedan was occupied. I had gathered my courage, stepping closer to peer through the glass. Inside, two bodies were stripped bare, limbs intertwined in a grotesque knot of flesh. The man was Douglas, my husband, a man who built his entire reputation on self-control, propriety, and stoicism. The woman was Barbara, his high school sweetheart, the one that got away. Tears burned my eyes, hot and fast. I felt small, helpless, shattered. I looked back on the landscape of my life. I had never tasted the bitterness of poverty, but I had choked on the bitterness of love until I couldn't breathe. I was old money, a distinct breed of Manhattan aristocracy, raised in a silk bubble. My parents treated me like a hothouse flower. I had never washed a dish, never worked a day, and never known a want. I graduated college and walked straight down the aisle. The marriage to the Landers family was a merger, a union of equals. Or so I thought. Before I married Douglas, I didn't know about his first love. Douglas had a soulmate once, a love etched in his soul, but Barbara was from the wrong side of the tracks, and his parents, ruthless climbers, forced them apart. Barbara took the payoff check, went back to her small town, and married a nobody to cut off Douglas's hope. Douglas was handsome, ambitious. With the massive capital injection from my family, he took the reins of the Landers Group and turned it into a titan of industry. He always claimed he hated my softness. He despised that I was delicate. But in the bedroom, he loved it. Hypocrite. How could a man wear two different faces so easily? Then came Colton. I nearly bled out on the operating table bringing him into this world. I poured every ounce of love I had into that boy. But Colton was his father's clone. Cold, stern, humorless. He despised my tears. From the time he could walk, Colton worshipped strength. He idolized Douglas blindly, even though his father treated him more like a junior employee than a son. I was the one who raised him. I was the one there for every fever and every scraped knee. But his loyalty belonged entirely to the man who ignored him. He was only 7 years old when he first dissected my character with surgical precision. Dad likes strong women, warriors who can stand beside him in the trenches, he had said, his eyes flat and judging. He doesn't like a trophy wife who only knows how to shop. He tilted his head, looking at me like a specimen. Mom, you've been a useless decoration your whole life. Doesn't that feel empty? Empty? I blinked. Actually, it felt fantastic. Clothes laid out for me, meals prepared, mansions, supercars, diamonds the size of walnuts available at a snap of my fingers. Why would that be empty? Was it a crime to be born lucky? Did I really need to seek out suffering just to prove I was alive? Chapter 2. Anyway, the two of them, father and son, loved to pick me apart. But I was trapped. I was a fool for love, a shallow idiot who couldn't resist a handsome face. Whenever the anger threatened to boil over, I would just look at their perfect, chiseled features. Then I would check the string of zeros in my bank account balance. Usually, that was enough to sedate me. But I still had pride. To prove to them that I wasn't just a useless ornament, that I could actually hold down a job, I wrote a check. A $50 million donation to a top-tier university for a new building. In exchange, I got a job. I became a librarian. I worked that job every single day, diligent and quiet, right up until I retired. Over those decades, I didn't just stack books. I found the scholarship students, the brilliant, starving kids from nothing, and I funded them. When they graduated, I funneled them straight into the Landers Group. In a way, I had built my own secret army right under Douglas's nose. If it hadn't been for Barbara, my life would have been a fairy tale. Smooth, perfect. When did the illusion shatter? About 6 months ago. I stumbled upon Douglas's journal. It turned out his annual business trips, 1 month every single year, were a lie. He was jetting off to be with her. Barbara hadn't become a career woman. She had become a housewife, worn down by the grind of poverty and life. Douglas was her escape. And she was his. They traveled everywhere together, hiking national parks, touring the coast, leaving a trail of happy photographs across the country. My heart didn't just break, it evaporated. Douglas had never traveled with me. Not once. We didn't even have a honeymoon. Every time I begged him for a vacation, I got the same cold response and a notification on my phone. Ding. $1 million received. The company is drowning in work. Marcella, where would I find time to babysit you? I sent you the money. If you want to play, go play by yourself. So I wiped my tears. I flew around the world alone. I watched penguins in Antarctica. I chased the northern lights in Iceland. I sunbathed in Hawaii and bought out entire luxury boutiques. I met plenty of men, handsome men who wanted to take me to dinner, but I held the line. I looked, but I never touched. I was loyal. And what did my loyalty buy me? Betrayal. When I found out, I snapped. I confronted Douglas, screaming, demanding an explanation. His response? Another cold transfer of funds. And a gaslighting masterpiece. Barbara and I are just friends. Stop imagining things. Go buy yourself some new bags and calm down. I bought the bags, but the rage didn't die. I went to my son. I told Colton everything, expecting him to be furious on my behalf. Instead, he defended him. Mom, look at the world we live in. It is normal for a man like Dad to have a confidant. Why do you have to make this house a war zone? He looked at me with bored eyes. Dad introduced me to Aunt Barbara when I was 8. She is a genuinely good woman, gentle, kind. She isn't the type to wreck a home. My world came crashing down.